Think about all the sudden illnesses and death, wondering if we are eating ourselves to death, body, mind, and soul. Pause. Think about it with intentional thought and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear what Paul Bethel got to say about why we need to pay more attention to our wellness.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. What we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative, 242.
Welcome to Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles. Join our co-sponsors Domdev Enterprises and Page Investments and our friends at Something to Think About in this lively discussion that we're going to have here tonight to help us all grow from strength to strength. So, my mama used to be talking about eat your spinach and all that kind of stuff. But, we're taking this to the modern level with some bright minds, young minds. We want to make sure that the world and the Bahamas get to hear the young minds. So these are some of the things that we do here on Something to Think About. And so as we move from strength to strength, what we want to do this evening is to be able to answer the question as to, do we think we are doing what we need to do to become well, or are we eating ourselves to death? And like I said, we have here, I call him Dr. Paul Bethel, one of them doctors, them special doctors, those that who deal with a little bit of the traditional stuff that they teach you in the schools and stuff, but some also a nice blend of, what we know here in the Bahamas and the Caribbean as bush medicine, but in the world they call it herbal medicine, but it's all almost the same. So welcome, Doc. Shall I call you Doc or something else? What you want me to call you today?
Paul is fine. Paul is fine. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yes. Well, I mentioned earlier that we gonna have this discussion, and you studied wellness in school. I see where your family is an interesting family because you have a real big time doctor. One of them who became very, very successful in your father. Your mommy is an artist, so that means you're very creative. I'm sure she had a lot of things that she could have done otherwise too, but that's what she took. You have brothers who did various things also that would have been also in the professional and in the creative space. And so it's curious that the people want to know, if are you creative also, or you just in the professional space?
Right. I consider myself, Dale, actually to be someone who is very artistic and creative. It took me some time to build my professional career, and it was a struggle. I was a C student growing up. I was an A or A student growing up, and it took me some time to find my way into the field of holistic nutrition, which is what I studied in school. I first started off with a fitness certification in fitness and nutrition, which basically talked about concepts about how do we improve the way we perform our fitness behaviors and goals in tune with nutrition and what we eat. And then I eventually went into nutrition as a concentration to study as a whole later on down the road. So it's been quite of a hustle for me. I was someone who was always into art, like my mom as well, into acting. I was into theater growing up. Wasn't so much into sciences. When I was young, I used to want to be a veterinarian, but at some point I had detoured off of that decision to become a veterinarian and went into nutrition eventually. I think my three brothers, including me, we're all artistic in some way, and lucky to have a good blend of family. Both one in medicine and then one in the artistic side of the world. So a good mix, a good blend.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So tell us now, wellness. There's many definitions of this wellness. To me, it has to do with body, mind, and soul, and the blend of those three things. But you give us what is your definition, because when I spoke with you offline, you gave me the most simple definition to me, as I've heard from anybody who've gone through university or to university, because you know there's two different things to that, right? So, what's your definition as to what is wellness?
What is wellness? Right. Okay. So it is a broad term. When we think about someone or someone as being well, it's a state of being, someone's condition. How happy are they? But it can be defined under many terms and rules based on someone in an individual's life. Basically, under the terms under my study of practice, wellness can be defined as a state of harmony in the body, because that's something we all strive for on a daily basis. For example, like our blood sugar levels, it's actually never in harmony. We have to eat frequently throughout the day, small meals, to help keep our blood sugars in balance so that we have energy to perform and be productive in society. So our body is constantly in a struggle to be in harmony or be in balance. So wellness can be in some ways defined as a state of balance in someone's life. How well are you able to balance the stressors in your life? How well are you able to balance, the positive things in your life? And so, it is an interesting term. We all have our downsides and downfalls and factors that seem to be slowing us down. But again, it's how we adapt to and react to these stressors and responses that can define if someone is ultimately well or not. It is a broad term. It is a broad term, and I think different people and individuals can define wellness on their own terms as well. So that varies between individual on how you define wellness, basically.
Right.
But health is one part of it. Someone's state of health is one part of it. So their dietary status, what they're eating, their lifestyle habits, exercise, how frequently are they exercising? What about their social habits? Someone can be socially well, right? I can
Right.
have a good social circle, a healthy social circle, lots of friends. I could be popular, that sort of thing. So, different aspects in our lives can be more well than others. But we ultimately want a complete state of balance and harmony in our lives. And something we all strive for is ultimately for all of those factors in our lives to be in balance and well, right?
So it's safe to say then that there's no hard and fast measure or mark. Because we like talk about this the average in the Bahamas, and we always grading people as to who's the best athlete, and everybody below that don't count and stuff like. Wellness really doesn't have a grade, but it's what is relevant to you.
Yes, exactly. Because just because someone isn't, for example, let's give an example. Say maybe a lower income person might be doing very well under their own terms, but
Right.
economically they have low income, and to some people that's not considered as well, right? So it's very vague. It is a vague term. I could be very a very well happy life without having bring in $50,000 a year. What are the things that are making me happy? Those are the things we have to magnify and learn to nourish to be in a state of wellness. We have to practice proper hygiene behaviors, cleaning up our hair and being confident about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
cleaning up properly, brushing our teeth and flossing regularly. These are all minute traces of behaviors that consider a person to be well, but it is a vague term and tough to define. So we have to, in holistic nutrition, what we try to reach out and educate people about are what are the whole factors that encompass
Mm-hmm.
this wellness or holistic branch of nutrition that bring everything together in one. And that is the mind, body, and spirit. Basically, as a part of our human nature, we do want to nourish and have a good spiritual being. We do want to nourish our mind and our
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, and we do want to nourish our body ultimately as well. And so holistic nutrition tries to tie in everything together. We don't want to consider just diet alone that makes someone healthy or well. Their physical status does as well. Their physical activity does. Their social
Right.
peers, their family circle, and lots of other factors play its role as whether or not someone is well. So a lot of things have to be assessed and looked at when you look at the state of someone's wellness or health. All of those things have to be looked at, not just one lab number from a laboratory test, right? Or one bad meal a day, like pizza or KFC one day or 2 days out the week, right? That doesn't necessarily make you unwell that you're having or going through those periods, but how will you bring it back into balance? right? I may go to
Right.
KFC once a week or twice a week, but am I going to come back the next week and, prepare myself a nice salad? Am I going to increase my fiber frequently between those days that I like to maybe binge on pizza or KFC? I'm bringing balance and some moderation into things in my life, and that's considered to be a state of wellness. When someone can adapt to and bring a state of balance to all of the things coming their way externally in their environment, how well someone does that is how well
Yeah.
they are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about body, mind, and soul, but we're not talking about religion, all right? When we say soul, we're talking about that spiritual connection to whatever, wherever it is. I mean, in some religious environments, it's defined, but everybody has a spirit that is connected to something, and so we're talking about growing that and the like. And if you have a religious practice, then by all means use that engine to help you grow your spirit,
Yeah,
right?
you bet. So spirituality definitely is another component of wellness as well. Just like nutrition, just like exercise, time in
Mm-hmm.
nature, sleep as well. Getting enough rest is something that incorporates that helps us to be well as well, and spirituality as well. You bet. You bet. Spirituality is definitely one of them. What do we hold true to ourselves as the truth, right? What do we really believe in? And that's something that I think as humans and innately we always think about. We've got to think positively about where we and what goals we want to have as a human nature. We do want better for all, and that's ultimately I think how humans think. Humans are innately good. We do want good for everybody, but there
Right.
are challenges in the world we live in to be able to do that. And that's where connecting with everybody like we're doing now becomes an important role in that. So everybody can have and touch base and be on the same page. But it's going to take time to get there. We do have our work to do for sure. And touching in touch with your spirit, Charlie, is definitely a good thing, a positive thing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you didn't mention when I asked you about your background, but your studies, like you said, you rushed over, it really took you through a number of things, and I think one of them was the psychological. Is that the correct in your
Uh,
studies?
yeah, cognitive. You can say
Philosophy. Yeah, cognitive.
cognitive
Right.
or cognitive. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, do we know
Yeah. Did you touch on
the
that on the?
effect of?
Yeah. But
Sorry. Go ahead. Say it
no,
again.
I thought you wanted me to touch. I thought you wanted me to speak about the mind and gut connection, but that might be the next question. Go ahead. You
Yeah,
can ask the next
we
question.
probably get to that in a bit. But
Okay.
do we know what is the effect of not knowing this item of wellness, of not knowing what wellness is to people as you just described? Because a lot of people are stressed over the fact that they think that they're not well when they may be well, and they might think that they're well when they're not well, and
Right.
all kind of stuff like that. So,
Right. So
do we
so
know
it's
what
it's
the impact is on our bodies and our minds for not
right. So
striving for
knowing is
wellness? Yeah.
yeah, knowing how to be well and how to better yourself is important. Becoming informed and educated from practitioners like myself, even your doctors as well, can give you tips and strategies on how to improve your wellness. But it's ultimately going to be up to you yourself to do that. The impact it has on body, mind, and soul is that it has a tremendous impact. The more informed we are, Dale, and the more we are knowing on how to apply these dietary habits and techniques, how to apply physical activity on a daily basis, that
Mm-hmm.
requires doing a little work, a little research, and trying to understand how to do it. We don't just become born one day and know how to eat and know how to exercise. We
Yeah.
actually have to tap into and learn how to do that. And the more we become informed about that, yeah, the better are we off. The better our body, mind, and soul is off if we're more knowing and more informed on how to do these things. And that's really what the role I have is as a holistic nutritionist is basically just to educate about not about the consumption of whole foods like fruits and vegetables, but how do my clients and how do the ones learning from me learn to incorporate these foods into their diet a little bit more. And that doesn't happen overnight. It
Mm-hmm.
takes time, and that's the nature of my work. It does take a little time for people to tap in and to become satisfied about some of the resources I've informed them about or given them. And so knowing is definitely half the battle, or important for sure in our wellness, because our ancestors back in the day didn't really know, at crux the foundation of what it meant to be well. Over time, we learned. Over time, we learn things and learn to do things better. And you can expect and bet that in the future, maybe our kids and will probably learn to do things better as well. So over time, we learn as humans how we improve the way we do things. And so that's why nutrition is kind of surfacing now as a very important, popular field to study. We're learning more about food and how it benefits us. And now as nutritionists, we're trying to get the information out there so everybody's informed and knows about the importance of certain foods and what to avoid as well. What should we stay away from, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And it would have been good if I had you along a long time ago in my life, because, and what you do, and people like yourselves too, because at one point in time, I ate ice cream every day. I ate rice every day, and that took up most of the plate. And very little greens on the plate. But the ice cream was at least 3 scoops, if that was not enough. And all that stuff happens and seem to interfere with our total body wellness, or equilibrium, as I call it. And so, as we touch on that, then tell us then, why do we need to pay more attention to the wellness? What will it do different? You still there? Or you went?
They
Somebody dropped.
took me out the studio. I'm back in.
Yeah, back in. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So why do we need to pay more attention to our wellness? What would be the pros of us being more well-rounded?
Right. So more thriveful and abundance lives. We can just ultimately be more happy. Longevity as well can be extended or improved. Today we do have some cultures that live up to 100. And that's been documented over years in cultures in Japan, some in Italy, to where they've lived to 100 years old. We call them centenarians. And it's something that we should always try to nourish, is what it means, at least to be well, and look for areas that we can improve on to and better ourselves. We can't expect everybody to be perfect, but it's good to tap into, as an individual, what areas of my life I can improve or get better at. So that's something that's definitely something that we should learn and try to tap into now. And I'm noticing that a lot in our culture in the Bahamas, about the way specifically about how we're eating. I do notice a lot of vegetarian now and plant-based food restaurants opening up, and that's a great step forward for the country. Once we start eating better, you move quicker. You have less fatigue. You smile more throughout the day, and you just react to and speak to people differently as well when you feel good about yourself. So it's definitely something that we need to work on, and for sure, and there'll always be room for improvement in terms of wellness for an individual. No one's going to be ever perfectly well, right? But again, it's how we manage that balance throughout our lives that's important, and how well we do that will determine on how long we live ultimately, right?
Yes, that's awesome. So, folks, do know that you're welcome to drop a note in the chat to ask the good doctor, Paul, a question, or make a comment, or even suggestion as to how you would like to see us proceed. But we want this to be as interactive as possible so that we could get your questions answered. I think I canvassed enough people to get some ideas of what people out there want, but it's always good to get your personal questions answered. We're not personal to you necessarily, unless you want to put it out there, but questions that you want to hear answered. So those are some of the things to do. So, Paul, there's these things that we talk about. There's the saying that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. And so when we look at that, I try to coin that into our world. And so I asked the question then, are we plant eaters having a meat experience, or are we meat eaters having a plant experience?
Good question. That's an interesting question. That's the first time I've heard that worded that way. But we are plant people having a carnivore experience, I would say, first before the latter.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies are designed and first require carbohydrates for energy. So those are things like complex carbohydrates, whole grains, nuts and seeds, broccoli, root vegetables, fruits. Those are sources of carbohydrates that our
Mm-hmm.
bodies thrive on. And our body is, and I'll give you a quick interesting science history. Our body has an intestinal system very long. If we pull out our intestinal system, it's so many yards long actually. Unlike animals or carnivores, like a lion or bear or tiger, when they consume meat, their body is very easily able to digest the food without very much chewing it at all. It goes right to the stomach. They don't have a long intestinal system like humans do. The
Mm-hmm.
reason for the intestinal system is that the intestinal system is basically where we absorb nutrients from foods, and they have little villi fingers attached to the walls of them to help slide food along through peristalsis and to absorb nutrients from it. What those little villi want mostly is plant fiber to come through and brush the villi. All right,
Okay.
that means that that's actually creating some form of peristalsis and bowel movement through the body, and that's when our body thrives most, when we're consuming lots of fibrous foods and carbohydrates. That's when we have lots of energy at that point. So we are plant-based animal. Humans are mainly needing plants for their source of energy, not meat. Meat is actually a delicacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we can't handle it, but too much or excess meat does disrupt our body because it is considered the hardest food source for our body to break down, other than any other food source out there and any other macronutrient. Meat is the single hardest thing for our body to break down in stomach. So you have to consider and understand that aspect about your body before, or at least when you're learning to prepare your own meals at home and things like that. We are really needing to eat more plant-based foods throughout the week and more plant foods. And that's how our body's thriving. When we have a bowel movement, when fiber comes through, after you kind of have a bowel movement after coming off the bathroom, your stomach feels light, your gut feels like you have lots of energy. That's really how your body should be feeling 24/7. But we insult it with sugars and meat regularly, where our body looks at the food coming through, candy and refined carbs, and says it has a lot of work to do. Eating is almost like work on
Mm-hmm.
the body. So we have to support the process of what the body wants to do. And it really does want plant foods and carbohydrates first for energy. So that's something that people don't know a lot about. Yeah, that's we are plant people.
Yeah, and I was taught that by a good gentleman who said to me that, just look at our teeth. We don't have the sabers like what the lions and the tigers and all of them
Exactly.
have, which could rip, or
Rip the
we just have these
flesh.
flat things which
Yeah.
tell you we really should be crunching things, or
Yeah. Yeah.
grinding it together or whatever kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that is another factor that distinguishes us from other animals or carnivores. Is the
Mm-hmm.
nature of our teeth. We don't have sharp canines that are needed to break down bones and flesh. That is true. Yeah, our body is wanting fiber. That's a lot of people wonder, how can that be? I never think that I want fiber throughout the day, but a lot of us aren't getting enough fiber in the day to know how it feels to be consuming a lot of fiber foods. That's why a lot of people don't know. Well, how come I don't know that I need fiber to thrive? Well, the thing is access to foods, to fibrous foods. We have farmers markets here out in on the island every now and then. We should be having
Right.
more of those. We should be growing our own plant foods and maybe foods at home that have fiber. But unfortunately, here in our culture, 80 to 90% of our food is imported. It's not coming in fresh a lot of the time, and we have to go to the grocery store to grab our fiber. And that's where the challenge comes in as a nutritionist when working with clients. It's one thing to give them a nice, healthy recipe. It's another thing to kind of instruct them on how to prepare it and where do they go
Right.
specifically to find these foods that are high in fiber. And so that is a challenge. That is a difficulty, a challenge, as well as having access to a lot of high fiber foods that you see like in the Western culture, in their supermarkets, and the abundance of farms that they have. They have lots of access to lots of foods that are high in fiber. And they also have other things about their culture in the U.S. at least, or in the Western culture, that are bad about their diet. But for the most part, having access to high fibrous foods is important. And if you're someone who eats a lot of fiber, you would know really why it's important to be consuming it regularly. If you're moving around a lot, have things to do, this is really when we're moving quick and we're thinking fast, and our mind is clear, is when we're able to clean out our intestinal tract and system with fiber. The intestinal tract is needing to be broomed out and cleaned regularly. And that's what fiber is doing for us. Fiber not only helps clean out toxins from the body, but it also helps us intake nutrients from foods a lot more efficiently. If I'm not bringing enough fiber into my body, and I'm just congested with saturated fat, bacon, bread, and waffles, I'm not going to absorb nutrients when it comes my way, like healthy nutrients. But if I'm getting a lot of fiber regularly, when a healthy food comes through, or even meat, for instance, I'm able to digest and absorb the fat properly and efficiently, because you're flushing out the body regularly. The body functions optimally when there's fiber regularly coming through. And that's when we thrive at our most, is through plant foods that offer that source of fiber.
Yeah, and when you talk about having fiber, because fiber in my mindset growing up was lettuce on a hamburger, right? And to me, that was the fiber that from the greens that I was supposed to get, and it wasn't supposed to be anymore. But back in 2009 when I had my treatment, Brother Bellot, he God rest his soul, he was at that stage, and the only thing he wanted to eat was salads. And so I coined and started calling him salads. But, I found that at some point in time during my treatment, I ended up really didn't want to eat some of the other things that I would normally eat all the time, the rice, the this, the that. And I wanted the salads, and I was like, hold on. If chemo detoxes you, as they say, it poisons you and detox you in a way, even though it putting more poison in your body, it kills out all the other stuff, then maybe that's why my body started to yearn just for the salads. Is that any rationally truth to that?
Yeah. So, after going through at least the chemotherapy process, what can happen is your taste or palate might change. The body's been kind of disrupted in a way. You've during the chemo process, you kind of lost some cells. And your palate can change during before and after that process. But fiber specifically is, today is slowly being considered a nutrient, and it's not considered a nutrient. It's an anatomy of the plant. It's actually a structure of the plant, a part of the plant, which is like the cellulose, the actual hard fibers of the plant, basically, that brushes us and cleans us out. And we're now understanding the importance of fiber plays with respect to other nutrients. As I said, none of these other nutrients like vitamin A, B, C are effective in the body if you're getting fiber. And so we're understanding that now today, that if you don't have enough fiber coming through your body, you're not going to be able to uptake the nutrients you need to make your body strong. So that's something we're learning a lot now in nutrition is we're considering fiber to be a nutrient, but we don't. It's not actually a nutrient, but we as nutritionists like to say it is, because without fiber, none of these other nutrients that you want to get to the body are going to come in successfully if you're not cleaning yourself out regularly and having regular bowel movements. So, the fact that you were craving salads could have been at that time a reduction in electrolytes. So you maybe became dehydrated at some point before or after the chemotherapy process. And salads are high in water, particularly like lettuce and spinach and leafy greens are plants that are high in water. So I'm not surprised that you might have craved some salad sometime during or after the process of chemo, because they do have a high water content. And so that probably is one factor that you're probably trying to address was thirst or hydration. And salads can offer some form of hydration as well. Some salads, the plants like cucumbers are high in water. Zucchinis, those are plants that are high in water. So those taste great on a salad as well. Yeah.
Cool. So we ask the question: are we what we eat? Because the basic instruction before leaving Earth tells us that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so, I look at it that principle should apply to almost everything. And so we ask the question from a body, mind, and soul point of view is what we eat, what we put in the the uh, the scenario as to what we are. And Maxon P. Withers, who is a schoolmate of mine, and I forget what country he's practicing in now. I think it's somewhere in South America, maybe Colombia. But he does a lot of development on this side of the fence, and he's a friend of Something to Think About. He's on the show, and he's developing a program right now which will help us to engage in eating more healthy eating, but also to stop a lot of the wastage that we have with food, because the numbers that he put out on the show is mind blowing as to how much food is actually wasted when we have so many people going without food. But he says that clean food equals clean thought, clean thoughts equal better beliefs equals better decisions, better actions, better habits, better lifestyle, quality of life.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I totally agree. And that's the last concept, or one of the more recent concepts in nutrition I'm starting to delve into in research, is the gut and mind, the gut and mind connection. Because as nutritionists, we truly do believe that there is a connection from the gut, which is where our intestinal tract is, our stomach, and the mind. What we eat does impact how we feel and how we think. We do believe that, yes. And we're looking and delving into studying that a little bit more. And again, fiber plays a very important part in that. Because you think about it, if we're eating every day throughout our lives, the body is intaking debris all the time. And it has work to do. It's got to absorb, understand what you're taking in. It's got to get it out at some point during the day. At some point down the road, right, the body wants to be kind of cleaned out, wants to have clean food. And those clean foods that offer us to detoxify and clean out the body are whole foods, fruits and vegetables. That's it. Okay. Fruits and vegetables are what are going to clean us out regularly. With the regular consumption of fruits and vegetables comes a clearer mind, comes a better gut. The gut, again, is only effective and able to absorb nutrients, as I said, if fiber is coming through in the form of fruits and vegetables. So how do we incorporate that more into our daily lives is where the challenge is coming in. We do know for sure that there is a gut and mind connection, but how do we tap into creating harmony and homeostasis with respect to the two and how we eat? And that's where the challenge comes in. But we definitely do know that there is a gut and mind connection for sure. What we eat does definitely impact how we think. So try to get that fiber in you. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables if you can. And, try to get online and do a little research to see how you can maybe prepare a broccoli in one meal, chop up an onion, and things like that. Those are all things and techniques that I learned in school that are carrying me this way. I definitely do feel as if I am functioning a lot better than I was when I was growing up in my household with my family, where we ate a lot of dairy, cheese, milk, sugary foods. I loved Kool-Aid when I was growing up. And the only thing that saved me at that age from suffering to childhood obesity was my mental drive to wanting to be physically active. I was someone who loved sports. And so ultimately, I never succumbed to putting on excess weight gain, luckily, as a kid growing up in the Bahamas here. And then eventually I tapped into nutrition and learned what to do in the kitchen. I totally noticed the way my thoughts were when I was young as opposed to where I am now. Definitely feel a lot more clear as I start to consume more of these plant-based foods and whole foods regularly. Yeah, clean foods for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And and those clean foods, that raised a different question in my mind as you were talking, because we talk about colors. My colors was, like I said, the starches and the meats, the proteins, but my colors was only green. And I've read some things the other day that start talking about purple and blue.
Yeah.
And we need to put them in the marker. And my good lady just got me into colorful vegetables, because my mom could tell me I wasn't eating no squash, no this, no that, no those things was not happening.
Yeah.
But at least the sweet peppers and whatever and stuff, some of them I could still do the colors yet. I'm get up to that point where you're all at with all of these super
Yeah. So
fancy exotic dishes and stuff. But the blue and the purple, why is that important?
yeah. So the whole color spectrum is important, even white colored foods. So garlic and onions are kind of a white color, transparent. Even those
Okay.
colors are very important to eat. And again, when it comes to the best diet or the most well diet, it's not swaying one way or left or right. The best diet is
Mm-hmm.
the person that gets the most variety or the most variety of colors into their diet. That's the best diet. The green colored foods actually detoxify the body. Dale,
Mm-hmm.
green foods like green apples, broccoli, spinach, kale, they contain the compound in them called chlorophyll, and that's what gives them their green color. All green foods have them, and that's what actually pushes out toxins out the body. So green foods actually detoxify and take toxins out the body. Purple foods, and this is something I learned in the past decade, actually are high in antioxidants. And what they do is they
Mm-hmm.
protect our cells from damage. So they actually have benefits on our longevity, the way we look, our skin complexion. It makes us
Okay.
look younger. So purple foods like purple potatoes, blueberries, red wine that contains resveratrol, which is a purple color. Those foods
Right.
actually protect the cell from damage. So if you're consuming lots of purple foods, you can bet later on in life you will definitely look young. Apparently it contributes to looking younger as well because the cells are being protected to a very high degree. Other food colors like yellows and reds are also foods that contain antioxidants like red peppers, yellow peppers.
Mm-hmm.
But purples specifically have been recently studied to contain anthocyanins, which is a type of antioxidant that is said to really do wonders on the cell in terms of protecting it from cell damage and from external harm and toxins that come into the body. So you definitely want to consume your purple foods for sure. Grapes are also purple containing foods. Blueberries, blackberries. Red wine is fine to have a little every now and then as well.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, definitely all colors are important. Even white, like garlic and onions are a white color that are just as important as the other colors as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I grew up thinking that cauliflower had no nutritional value, but of recent I found that it mightn't have all of the high ingredients in it that some of the other things, but like you said, from a fibrous point of view and this and that, it still has a significant purpose.
You bet.
And
You bet. Cauliflower actually is considered a cruciferous vegetable, and it contains indole 3 carbinol, which actually has benefits towards protection against breast cancer. Actually,
hmm
so cauliflower is definitely a vegetable like bok choy and broccoli that you
right.
want to consume to help keep cancer cells at bay. So it's actually protective towards cancer cells. So cauliflower is definitely a great vegetable, and it's high in fiber. You bet that you definitely want to consume lots of fiber if you can. And cauliflower, you can actually find sometimes or rarely, Dale, purple cauliflower. So
Yeah.
now that's even a plus. That's even a good thing. I found even green cauliflower, but the purple cauliflower, right? It has more antioxidants in it. That's all it's considered.
Okay.
It's not
hmm
necessarily better or worse than the white cauliflower. It does contain more constituents and antioxidants in it, though. So if I had to pick the white or purple, I would go with the purple, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't eat the white cauliflower. The white cauliflower still has benefits as well. Yeah, I found purple cauliflower in the stores before, purple asparagus as well. I've seen
hmm
purple asparagus in the stores. It just means the antioxidants in it content is a lot higher. So if you see any purple vegetables out there in the store, yeah, go ahead and reach for them and see if you can whip that up in the kitchen for sure and
Yeah.
eat that. Yeah.
So on that note, then, I've heard a number over, especially when I was doing my treatment. Everybody had a recipe or a model as to what I should be eating. And the doctor said to me, to mom, quite frankly, just feed him whatever he is willing to eat. Let him eat it right now, and then afterwards he could go back to a balanced treatment and of intake of food. But two things. One is that issue of eating during treatment, and then the other issue is the balance. What constitutes a healthy diet?
Right.
Granted, everything is personal to each person and so forth, but basically, we used to talk about the handful for meat and the this for that and the that.
Yeah.
Is that any truth to those things, or they just some that people marketing thing that people come up with?
Right. So remember, as we said, there is a gut and mind connection, and generally after going through such a invasive procedure like chemotherapy, you definitely want to let the client or patient eat what they like after, because usually the mind is saying what the body is needing. So
Okay.
it's usually a no holds bar after chemotherapy. If the client is craving something, it is most beneficial that they just let them have what they want to eat after going through such a procedure. Now, with respect to what constitutes a healthy diet, and what does that entail? So a number of things, not just what we're eating, but what we're avoiding as well. So what we're eating more of basically needs to be more fruits and vegetables. What are we specifically avoiding as well? So, limiting stimulants, or moderating stimulants like caffeine and alcohol, because caffeine, like too much caffeine, like coffee, can actually, it's diuretic. So we eliminate nutrients when we pee it out. And we
Mm-hmm.
lose nutrients that we from foods we eat if we have too much caffeine. So moderating our stimulant intake like caffeine and alcohol, avoiding and limiting our intakes of sugars. Sugar is only a staple ingredient to make food flavorful. It's not an essential nutrient. We don't need added sugar in our diet. So, making sure you're avoiding all the sugary and candy foods and not getting that into your diet. It's a number of things that we can be doing to, have a proper staple diet. But at what stands at the very top of it is the regular consumption of a plant strong diet of fruits and vegetables. If someone's doing that regularly, they're most likely active and usually able to eat what they want when they like. So because they're getting enough fiber, they can have as much meat when they want, and that sort of thing. So really just making sure that you have a plant strong diet. Think plants first before anything else. Other things maybe include healthy fats, a variety of getting healthy fats in the diet. The body needs fat as well, but there's not one type of fat we should have. It's a variety of different fats that incorporate a healthy fat diet, to say. So that's important as well. And yeah, I think those are probably some of the main points with respect to nourishing your diet. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always say that from dust to dust. So if it came from the dust and it goes back to the dust, then that's something that we should consider eating. But if it didn't come from the dust, then that's something that we really should avoid. But
Right.
Coca-Cola seemed to be something that came from the dust because it had cola, the plant-based thing in it. So it
Yeah.
can't be that bad, eh?
So
The
right.
carbonated sodas. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So you're thinking about natural foods. That is what a plant-based diet is promoting. The consumption of natural foods. So right, Coke is not a natural product though. It was
Right.
made. I think the base of it, right, is from the cocoa plant, but the cocoa plant necessarily isn't in the soda. And,
Right.
and 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 so are not a lot of the nutrients that come from the plant, because by the time it's packaged and processed in a Coke bottle and carbonated, a lot of the nutrients have been lost over time. And that goes with a lot of foods that are packaged, boxed, and sold to us in stores. That's why the best food source is whole foods. The whole carrot you see in the store,
Right.
the cabbage you see in the store, right? That's where all the nutrients are, and where we're eating from the soil is important, right? Eating natural foods. Anything packaged and boxed to some degree is not
Mm-hmm.
natural, or it's out of its natural form. But what
Right.
what the food industry is hopefully, the food system is learning to do, is how do we incorporate some of these plant foods and some of the packaged foods we're selling. You'll find now, Dale, that a lot of spaghetti or pastas are made
Right.
from chickpeas or made from lentils. You'll find chips now made from black beans and things like
Right.
that. So that's a foot forward that the food system is going in the right direction. Unfortunately, we didn't have these foods access to us in the stores
Yeah.
when we first colonialized. Fast food was the most popular thing, McDonald's and things like that. But the stores are slowly taping into learning how to sell packaged foods and better quality packaged foods. But ultimately, even if a food is packaged and still contains some plant source in it, it's still not in its natural state. Once it's boxed and packaged, it's out of its natural state. So that section where all the fruits and vegetables are is the section you always want to pay due care to whenever you're getting produce and things like that from the store. Whole foods are the only thing that's in its natural state. Nothing else in the grocery store. Even
Yeah, and
carbonated
so
sodas.
I just throw that in there for people who like me who
Yeah,
used to like that kind of thing. But we talk about the healthy eating, but going to the food stores, a lot of those products we look at them and they look washed out. So is there a time stamp or time sensitive as to how long they can be out before they lose all of their ingredients? Because I know some things they say you put orange juice on an orange open on the counter, then it loses its vitamin C very quickly,
yeah.
kind of thing. So how do we prepare or consume these things in this high cost without wasting money, or we could
Right.
maximize
Correct.
these benefits?
So yeah, reading labels is important. Instead of just grabbing something you see off the shelf in store, read the back of the label. One important information of it is the ingredients. The less ingredients on a packaged foods, the better, the more natural it is. If you start to read things in the ingredients label and you see it has over 30, 40 things you don't understand, it most likely is very refined. Yeah, that is one component of packaged and processed foods and shopping properly. Reading labels and checking expiration dates as well. A lot of all or most packaged foods have expiration dates on it, so make sure you check the expiration dates before you just pull it off the shelf. I'm still getting in the habit of doing that. I see something I like and I just grab it right away. But the more you shop, the more you build a habit. So I'm usually checking canned foods. Always check the dates on them to make sure they're still fresh. Generally, the food stores will pull them off the shelf after they expired, but that's not the case sometimes. So that's why you have to check and double check. Sometimes there will be an expired product on the shelf, and you might not realize it. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, with respect to the freshness factor in our culture, that is a problem, and that's why we are being encouraged, and why I'm encouraging us to grow our own food if you can in your backyard or at home, so you can have at least some form of organic fresh vegetables. A lot of our food is imported, so we lose that freshness factor. It's coming from the United States or abroad. 2-3 days or maybe a weekend after it's in, and we go to shop for it, it probably looks all flimsy and it looks like it's rotting already. So that is something to just keep in mind, just stay aware of. And shop regularly. That's something I encourage as well. I'm in the store about every 2-3 days, and I shop often. And so that's important to do as well. Make sure you're shopping around and shop often for that reason. Yeah.
So it's better to shop multiple versus to shop one time a week and let it
Yeah.
stock up.
Exactly. So there is a reason why we would want to shop once for the month, unless you're stocking up on pantry items, maybe for a hurricane. That's important to do. Stock up on
Right.
storage. But remember, we want to eat whole foods, and whole foods are fresh. They don't have a everlasting shelf life. So when we shop, it's important that we eat what we shopped for, and when it's done, go back to the store and eat it. But remember, fruits and vegetables don't have a long shelf life. A lot of fruits and vegetables go bad within 2 to 3 days. So that is how often technically you want to be shopping. As soon as something's bad, you want to either have consumed it, thrown it away, and gone back to the store and grab some more fresh produce. And that's the idea behind it. If you're eating fresh foods like fruits and vegetables, then you are probably someone who's shopping often. If you're not shopping often, it probably does mean you're buying a lot of packaged and processed fattier foods, right? That is the thing. Yeah, we do have to shop often to eat fresh and eat healthy. That is the thing. Yeah.
Awesome. So when we look at the question of how do we consume healthier so that we could reduce the toxicity, inflammation, and oh boy, disease. It's better.
Yes. All right. Good question. So nutrition is preventative. So the earlier we start, Dale, the better. We want to start earlier than later because as we age, we've stored up a lot of stored energy, and it is hard to reverse that process. It's not impossible. It's just more difficult. So we do want to start earlier to prevent the onset of inflammation and then obesity and then disease because the root of disease is actually inflammation. Obesity and putting on excess body weight is actually a symptom of inflammation. And so that is a precursor to chronic illness. So the more and the earlier we consume some of these whole foods we stressed about, and we build these practices and behaviors at home, the better we will be in the long run. And we do have a long way to go before we learn to do that. And that's the frustrating thing. It doesn't happen overnight, but the earlier the better. And that's why it's called preventative medicine. Yeah.
Cool. So in our culture, then we talk about all these things, and would we inherit it, or is it culture? Why we have such a high rate of the disease, the health issues? Because that's a significant thing to the point where the governments have wanted to implement a national health insurance program. Besides the fact that 70% of the people don't have insurance, are underinsured medically. What do we say? Is this something that people say that you get the BRCA um, um, gene or virus, and then you is it something that we could control, or is this something that we just have to pray and hope that it doesn't happen to us? That
Right.
we
I
become
think yeah.
healthier.
Right. So there are some factors that we've inherited over from our ancestors that we still do today traditionally. We still have some traditional practices in the kitchen and food preparation techniques that I would like to see addressed maybe in time, like frying
Mm-hmm.
foods and things like that. Generally, that we like to do. We like to eat a lot of fried fish. It's not that the fish is unhealthy; it's the way we're preparing it. So a lot of the way we do things has been handed down to us from the way we did things in the past. But culture is another thing as well. That is something that we have to look into as well, as how is we are as a culture learning to better ourselves and improve the way we eat. And we do just have to connect and bring more discussion to the table, how we connect those who know how to eat, and
Mm-hmm.
how do we connect the resources that we have to be able to provide those in our on our island and in the country to be able to do that. So I think it is a bit of both that's contributed to our health crisis or issue. But it's not nothing we can't address or modify. It
Okay.
is going to take time to learn how we put the systems in place to learn to do that for our future generations, for sure. Yeah, it's a bit of
Yeah.
both, I would say, Dale. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Cool. So then the fish. Then you mentioned fish earlier. Does it really heal us? Because we talk about fatty fishes and the like, omega threes and all of those omega um
Yeah,
series, etc.
yeah,
We have this whole big ocean
yeah.
with a gang of fish, but we seem to be one of the, I don't want to say sickest, but one of the less favorable countries in terms of health in this region.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do we say to that? Should we lobby the government to make fishing free? Not necessarily non-payment, but
Right. Yeah. That, I mean,
yeah.
that's one option. Again, this goes back to our traditional way of doing things as well. Like, we live in a place that has high abundance of seafood. The main issue I blame culprit to our health issue with respect to the seafood is just the way it's prepared. I think we have great access to a lot of healthy fish and foods out here. The food preparation technique that we're using to prepare the foods is where the problem comes in. We're using a lot
Mm-hmm.
of butter. We're boiling it in high oil, refined oil, and the reason why we're doing that, and a lot of reasons, is not only for taste but for convenience. And the culture just really isn't informed or educated on how to fillet and prepare a healthy fish for a dinner. And it is more time consuming. It is convenient to just drop it in oil and fry it, and you pay $7 and you get your dinner right away and it's cooked. And so we are answering one end and suffering on the other with respect to that. And it is respect to our food preparation. Seafood is definitely healthy, but like foods can contain some toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we have a lot of fish traveling in open waters where there could be oil spills, and we
Right.
could pick up a fish off the rod that maybe consumed some of it. Is the fish healthy at that point? No, it's toxic.
Correct.
But naturally, fish is a natural food. It is considered a whole food. It's natural to our environment. And it's considered to be anti-inflammatory due to the nature of the fat in the fish. The
Mm-hmm.
fish does has anti-inflammatory properties on the body because they do, like salmon, for instance, is high in omega-3s, like you mentioned, that help reduce inflammation in our body. So yes, fish is healing in some way, but like all foods, it can be susceptible to toxicity as well. Like plants even can be sprayed with herbicides and pesticides that are very toxic to the body. But there's a need to spray it if bugs are going to be attacking it. That's why we have to clean our vegetables when we do get them, because they are sprayed with toxic pesticides and herbicides that are meant to keep bugs and other foreign insects away from it when they're growing. So that's a similar issue with respect to seafood. Is the waters that these fish are traveling in clean? And we don't
Right.
know. But it is important to cook the fish properly. Make sure it's cooked well and properly. Yeah, food preparation method is definitely a key factor there as with respect to how we're handling our seafood. That is something that I do want to learn to do not only better myself, but talk about a little bit more
Right.
to our culture. How do we handle our seafood a little bit better? We're eating a lot of crack kunk. Crack kunk to me is probably best served in soup. I think stew kunk is probably one of the healthier forms of kunk,
Stew
or
conch,
kunk
yeah.
salad. A kunk salad is probably the best way that's prepared there. When we start to have crack kunk, now we're frying it and now we're increasing calories and fat and things like that, saturated fat that start to bring a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but conch salad and stew conch and steamed conch, I could eat them.
Yes.
Separate every day of the week and
Yeah.
add fish
So
in between there and I straight. Yeah.
right. So I want to just encourage, our public to try to learn to incorporate better food preparation techniques or purchase foods from vendors that are steaming and boiling and poaching their foods or sauteing their foods. Those are people who are cooking. All right. But there are a lot of people who are frying foods and that sort of thing. And that's okay every now and then. But when we have it in excess, right, we do have health issues that arise from the too much consumption of fried, fatty foods. We do want to steam, boil, poach, and saute our foods more regularly. Yeah.
Yeah. So Miriam's Curtis says here that at least weekly for fruit and vegetables. So is that enough or is that more than enough? What is the recommended for? And could we do it in supplements or do we have to do it in real food?
Right. So you definitely want to eat real food for sure. Supplements is good, but it's not a replacement for a healthy diet. So if you're supplementing, that's fine, but always focus on your diet first. Now, how much fruits and vegetables should we be getting? Well, as much as you think your body needs. If you're hungry, try to focus on consumption of fruits and vegetables. But you don't want to put a limit or an amount on how much you should be eating. That's going to be very difficult to gauge and monitor over time. But generally, I think we're thinking about 6 to 8 cups a day, I think, of vegetables and fruits evenly is what we want to look at. And a cup is about maybe a palm full or a fistful of food. 6 to 8 of that in an entire day, I think, is generally about 6 to 8 servings a day is what I generally want to consume. But it can be more than that, and you can be considered healthy, or it can be less than that in some way, and you can still consider to be healthy. As much as possible is really what you want to encourage yourself to do, as much as you can. Really try to not put a limit or number restriction on how much fruits and vegetables you should get in your diet, as often as possible. Yeah.
So macaroni and cheese is fruit and vegetables, right?
Macaroni and cheese is considered a dairy food, so it's an animal product because it has cheese, and it's a refined food because of the white pasta that's in it.
Right.
So it is considered an animal food. That would be considered a dairy food, like a dairy product. Yeah.
Yeah. But when I used to be in my other life an elite athlete, I was somewhere around the 190, 192 max with less than whatever body fat because I was playing ball all the time and moving all of the time. And then come back home, start working, still played, but then that became less and less and less. And you maintain that weight, but the BMX, the body fat ratio changed.
BMI.
And now I'm down in the mid 70s, and so people look at me and say, "Oh, you're too small. You do this, you do that, and whatever." So, but I feel so much more energized, and I feel that if I was this energized when I was playing ball, I probably would have been in the majors, right? I don't know, right? I'm just throwing that out there. But the bottom line, what I'm saying is that I find a lot of my friends who are smaller now than what they were then are so much more energized, and they are like 20 years older than what they was back then.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, what's the importance of movement? Yeah.
Yeah, very important. It's the movement plays an important role with respect to our ability to uptake nutrients. If I'm someone that's moving my body regularly throughout the week and I'm constantly getting blood circulation going, my ability to uptake nutrients from whole foods like fruits and vegetables is improved as well. So that's why they have a lot more energy. And it goes the other way around. If I'm someone who, started off early eating lots of fruits and vegetables and kept my body weight and started to perform these sports like walking, dancing, and seeing a high performance in my ability to move. So nutrition and movement play hand in hand together. Our ability to move improves with our diet, okay, and our ability to uptake nutrients from food improves with the more we move. Yes, if I'm just sitting down eating plates a day and not moving my body, the body will eventually put on excess body fat and won't really absorb nutrients properly. We have to move the body and get blood circulation going in combination with the healthy diet. That's when the body's going to thrive and work at its optimal best. Yeah. Yeah, moving is very important.
Yeah, and then the question here we put was, how do healthy diets combat stress? Is that something that it actually tackles? Because some people always talk about they all stress out, and this is why they go and eat 6 plate what did the song say? 6 piece of chicken to whatever. The song go? I can't remember it right now.
Yeah. So healthy diets, that's a good question. I wish I had some notes in front of me right now to go in depth in this. But we are finding now foods that are supportive to help support our body deal with stress. One of those foods are actually mushrooms. And what mushrooms do is they not only support the immune system, but if our immune system is supported, our ability to handle stress is also increased. But mushrooms also help support the adrenal glands as well. And the adrenal glands is a gland that helps release cortisol into the body. And that happens when our body reacts to stress. When we're stressed out, don't sleep or react to something that's very stressful, our body releases cortisol. And mushrooms can help balance how much cortisol is coming into the body and how our body reacts to stress. So there are some specific foods that can help calm the mind and reduce anxiety and stressful thoughts for sure. I don't have that list in front of me, but mushrooms is one of them. Salmon is one of them. There are a few other foods out there that are calming to the mind and to the nervous system that help reduce stress. Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me, but there are quite a few that we know today that help our ability to combat stress. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how does the body affect the mind, or the mind affects the body?
Good question. It goes hand interchangeably. The body affects the mind and the mind affects the body. So what we put into our body and what we eat ultimately directs our thoughts and how we feel, our mood, our energy. If we're adding insult, sugar, refined carbs, have a high fat diet, and our body's not able to function properly, but with the increase of fiber, what happens is that we don't think properly. We become foggy and cloudy, and we don't function properly. And so diet plays a very important role for our ability to be productive, move well, and think properly. And I do notice that on a daily basis. On a day where I drink a nice smoothie or a juice and I flush out, I have a bowel movement, thoughts come to my head right away. I think clear and I'm ready to go about my day. But after eating a pepperoni and bacon pizza, you kind of want to just sit down and be sedentary on the couch, right? And you don't want to think about anything. And that is the thing. So mind and body do play a role interchangeably, as the gut and mind connection do with respect to what we eat. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I guess that follows. Then the question is answered. Does wellness impact our ability to perform in the classroom, the job, building families, etc.?
You bet. You bet. Yeah, and that's something we've got to also consider as well. Once we as a culture and society learn to tap into how we're eating a little bit better, have a little bit more confidence and encouragement to move regularly, all of those things will fall into place. You bet. Our ability to perform in the classroom, exercise, relationship with families. Yeah, all of those are improved and nourished when we can actually nourish ourselves. You bet. If we're not nourishing ourselves with fruits and vegetables regularly, and we're not moving our bodies, we're moody, we're angry, we're gumpy, we yell at each other, we fight, we argue, and things like that do happen as a result to diet. You bet. Yeah. And that's what we have to learn to nourish in our culture. And I see that happening slowly. in our
Yeah, and
society.
you
Yeah.
you throw out being moody, and so that this question I put back on the table is the wellness impacting our sudden rise in illness and death, particularly suicides. It's the mood changes because our
Right.
diets are
So
way off course. That why we are having more people. I mean, I know we just came out of COVID and stuff. That has impact too. But generally speaking, there's been a systematic rise even
yeah.
before Dorian and COVID. They
Yeah.
might have just
So
put it over the top, right? Yeah.
yeah. So some foods can impact our mind for sure and how we think, and that's a cognitive imbalance that can happen with respect to the insult of some foods. So we know that in the past that wheat, for example, like gluten, it's a protein that's in wheat. And apparently that does have some impact on our cognitive function if we consume too much wheat. Apparently, there's been studies that have led to, the high consumption of wheat has led to even
Right.
Alzheimer's and dementia. And that's possible, but so are other external factors as well that can impact our cognitive thinking,
Right.
such as smoke in the environment, our relationships as well with family members or our spouses can impact the way we think. So just as nutrition is, as we put it into our body, can also change some gears in our mind and impact the way we think for sure. Yeah, definitely. The mind is a very sensitive area, and we do have to pay kind of really pay attention to it.
Yeah, John Milton always said that the mind is a powerful thing. It can make
Yeah.
a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven, right? So,
Mm.
kind of thing. Paraphrasing him. So, oops, dropped off. I don't know what happened there. But what we want to do now is we thank you, Nevin, for and all of those who have commented, Miriam, etc. And we would like to have just started to thank Brother Paul, good doctor. I know he doesn't like to be called doctor or anything like that, but I call him doctor because, I mean, he's healing people. And to me, that's what doctors do. Whether you have this title or that title or these letters behind your name and all that kind of stuff, doesn't really make a difference to me. But, it is a great thing. And I hope that today we had this conversation down on wellness and that we see that it really isn't something that we want to shy away from, but it's something that we really can embrace to know that we all could become well and well in our own life as we want to become more productive citizens on this earth. And so if Doc doesn't come back now, then what we will do is close him and thank him on his behalf. I hoping he'll come back because there's a part where we always ask our guests what else that they would want to say to the public. But we'll wait a couple of seconds and see what's happening. But do you have any more questions that you want? Because we could post them and we could send them to him and get the answers and so forth. On the like, I seen Niven was here just a little while ago. He's a chef and always baking these nice things. So chickpeas guava cake. That sounds like a challenge for you, Niven. How you think that one would work? Let us know. Let us know. And I know Miriam, the singer, always got some great things to do. So we hope it's been very valuable to you. We'd like to thank all who assisted, all who's watched in from around the world, all the way from Dubai, London. We get people in different parts of Africa, Ghana in particular, United States up and down the East Coast, some in the mid region, California area too, even in France. But we try to reach out and get people to learn something different than what is in the national conversation today, so that we could expand and grow our economy and our society more so than anything else, and our minds, so we could become the best that we could become. So as we do that, we want to thank you all again and look forward to seeing you next week, next time, where we will have the same old great conversations and be able to bring a topic that hopefully will be inspiring to you. And if you have a topic that you want us to talk about, guests that you want us to interview, do shoot us a note Let us know what you want to think about, and then see.
Sorry about
So we got him. We got him back. You got him back.
sorry about that,
So
Happy. I got disconnected.
yeah, no problem. That's because you didn't have your vitamins and your vegetables today. That's what happened. Yeah. So I was just thanking everybody for all of the good things that they've done and stuff like that. But if you can, I've asked you a drill load of questions, and I promise you an hour, and it's now 10 minutes over. But I don't want you to cut yourself short. You were just on a roll, so I didn't want to stop you. But is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel important that you would like to say to the public that you can now do so?
Well, I want to say this. Give our culture time. I'm realizing with respect to how my work is evolving. It seems as though I'm almost giving people more work when I give them recipes, show them how to do a certain exercise, and ultimately it's up to the client themselves. They have to want to see that change in themselves and want to do it on their own before they see any progress. And I just want to say to our culture, let's give ourselves time to learn and tap into this new holistic field and exciting field of nutrition. Because I think once our culture starts to improve the way we eat, I think the way we react to and speak to each other is also going to change as well in a fruitful and enlightening way as well. But we got to give it time. And give everybody time. Not everybody has the same income. Not everybody has gone to the same or gotten the same education. So we have to give each and every individual a chance and time to tap into how they are going to decide to learn to eat better, improve the way they eat. And I think it is going to take time. We just have to be optimistic about that. And it won't happen overnight, but I'm sure we will get there as a culture. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'd like to thank you again on dropping all of these nuggets, because there's plenty that you put on the table for us to think about and dive into and do a little bit more research and get some better perspective on these things. And then we'll bring you back and we'll dive into one or two items in a deeper dive than just going across the board. But I think it's important to give us all a good foundation at first, because we hear people talk about these things, but there's nothing really substantive other than a soundbite. I mean, there's the private things that goes on, but in the media, it doesn't seem to be anything big. So thank you kindly. I don't know what you cook for dinner, but I'm flying over. I'm gonna use your dad's jet. You laugh when you hear that. Yeah. But anyway, see what's
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Happy, and everybody else who's listening. Really appreciate you guys hearing what I got to say. And I definitely would love to have a talk again on the show. If I'm invited, I'll definitely glad to be there and hear what you guys have to say for sure. And tune in.
Sure. And tell them where to find you. We didn't even say that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually located at Lukine Medical Center in Freeport, Grand Bahama. And I operate my own wellness department there called the Wellness Oasis. The name was termed and originated from me and my mother. And it's been going well since 2018. It's been a lot of work since then. And we are still going through ongoing changes and modifications in the program. But everyone seems to be enjoying it so far. The main thing that's keeping me busy is probably the fitness aspect of my work. Moving people during the day is probably the most physically demanding of my job. But I am doing a bit of nutrition research every now and then and seeing clients and building meal plans for people that they are enjoying as well. So I'm happy about where my work is at now. It's taken a while to get here, but I'm here now. I'm here to stay.
All right. Well, we'll post the information in the chat underneath the threads that we have, so
Sounds
that
great.
you can all have the contacts, like we said. Thank you kindly. Thank you all. See you soon. Be safe. Don't eat too much. Macaroni and cheese. Put that on the side. All right.
All right, Dale. Take care.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative, 242.